One of the reasons why I like Joe Rogan and his podcast also is comedy. I mean, I wouldn't say he's the best comedian out there. I mean, I don't find all of his jokes funny, but his podcast, I like it. And the reason why is because Joe Rogan's very open minded. And by open minded, I mean literally open minded. He's willing to bring up a lot of people, different people from like different different sides of the political aisle, even crazy people. I've seen people like that he invites, and I'm thinking, dude, how can you invite this person? But other than that, though, that's why I like his podcast more than anything because he's willing to listen to all sides of the aisle. The left, on the other hand, while they claim to be open-minded, what they mean by open-minded means talking to people that you already agree with, and that's the difference between Joe Rogan and someone like that's on the left. So when Joe Rogan decides to endorse Bernie Sanders, in this case, a decision that I disagree with, but even then I still respect. What happens? Well, the left goes after him. Why? Because Joe Rogan is now being claimed to be a far right, Nazi, fascist, white nationalist, transphobic, racist, etc. Because he decides to bring people from all sides of the political aisle onto his show. So for being open-minded, the left calls him the worst of things. Kind of ironic, isn't it? But let's see what The Guardian has to say. The title reads, Bernie Sanders must reconsider Joe Rogan endorsement, says LGBTQ group. Wow, so tolerant of this LGBTQ group. But anyways, let's continue. Human Rights Campaign says podcast host Rogan has attacked countless marginalized groups at every opportunity. Yeah, he's make jokes about the Hispanics too, and guess what? I still listen to his podcast and I still watch his comedy specials on Netflix. So you know what? But anyways, let's continue. Bernie Sanders must reconsider his acceptance of an endorsement from Joe Rogan, the president of the Human Rights Campaign, said on Friday, given that the comedian and podcast host has attacked transgender people, gay men, women, people of color, and countless marginalized groups at every opportunity. And so what? I'm a Hispanic. So what? What's your point? Because he's open minded, you can't accept his endorsement. And here's the thing: if the Democrats are serious about beating Donald Trump, don't you think that the smart thing to do would be accept votes where you can get them? Because here's the thing. If I go and say I want to support Bernie Sanders and the left say, well, you are not leftist enough to vote for us, we don't want your vote. And then comes 2020 and then the left say, how can we have lost? How could we have lost? We have a lot of people who support our ideas. How did we lose? Maybe because you pushed away the 99% of the people who would have voted for you, but you turned away because apparently they weren't woke enough for you. That's the problem that I have with the leftists. They think that they're gonna win by pushing away votes. Joe Rogan, he's probably one of the most successful podcasters in the entire country. He has like around over 7 million subscribers on his YouTube channel. We're talking about a dude with literally a huge name recognition. Like if you mention Joe Rogan, people are probably gonna know who you're talking about. And when you have someone like Joe Rogan endorse a candidate like Bernie Sanders, again, I don't agree with, but I respect either way. When you have someone like Joe Rogan endorse someone like Bernie Sanders, you would expect that you would take advantage of it and say, hey, you know what? Look, podcaster Joe Rogan, one of the most successful podcasters in the country, is endorsing the person we want to support. You would expect you would use that to your advantage, but instead, what you're doing is simply turning him away, and then that makes you look even worse. Why? Because when you have over 7 million people who listen to Joe Rogan, you're talking about a potential at least 4 million at best. At best, I could be wrong again. It's just an estimate. But you're talking about a lot of people, potentially millions, supporting Bernie Sanders because Joe Rogan supports Bernie Sanders. But now you're saying Joe Rogan is a fascist, Joe Rogan is a Nazi. And when you criticize people like Joe Rogan, you're telling those 7 million people that Joe Rogan is not a good person. And I'll tell you this right now, not all liberals are woke leftists. So keep that in mind. In a statement that followed a flood of progressive protests over the endorsement, which Rogan made on Thursday, the HRC's Alfonso David said Sanders had run a campaign unabashedly supportive of the rights of LGBTQ people. But he said Rogan had, among other remarks, compared the black community to Planet of the Apes and dehumanized transgender people by misgendering them and promoting misinformation. It's called jokes, dude. But like I said, beauty of the leftists, they will push anyone away that isn't woke enough for them, and this is their business model for getting into the White House, is allowing anyone to vote, right? Allowing anyone to vote without any voter ID, and if you do not agree with them, they do not want your vote anyway. Sorry, I'm actually I still have a little stuff, still have a little of a stuffy nose. So if you hear that, it's just me. I have a stuffy nose, so I apologize for that. But anyways, like I said, that is not a good way to win. It's like me opening a business and say I only want business from Hispanic people. There's also white people. There's Chinese, Japanese, Korean. There's also I don't know, African Americans. If I only allow a business that only accepts customers of Hispanic origin, that business is gonna fail. There's no guarantee about that. It's called discrimination. And when you're telling people they can't vote based on what they believe, or because they don't believe the way you do, that's called discrimination, believe it or not. But anyways, let's keep going. The Joe Rogan Experience is one of the most downloaded podcasts on iTunes, and Rogan has nearly 6 million followers on Twitter. You also forgot to add over 7 million subscribers on YouTube. But anyways, let's go on. His podcast attracts high-profile interviewees. In September 2018, for example, a tech billionaire Elon Musk smoked marijuana on the show. Yeah, that was a good episode. An act which sent Tesla's stock prices tumbling. Really? Oh, whatever. Whatever. Rogan has also faced criticism over interviews with far-right figures such as Proud Boys founder Gavin McInnes and conspiracy theorist Alex Jones. But guess what? That's what makes him really cool. That's what keeps him interesting. It spices things up. When you bring people that you don't agree with, it challenges your views, and that's one thing that I like. Is that whenever I meet someone that I don't agree with, I don't push them away. I said, you know what? Let's talk about this. For example, one of my friends from work, he's actually a really nice guy. I don't want to mention his name out of respect for his privacy, but he's more of a liberal leaning person, not a leftist, but he's liberal. I'm more of a center right, centrist kind of person. And every time after work, we always have a conversation. Like every time we're eating, we talk about specific things. Like, hey, what's your stance on this? And then we disagree. We talk about it. We never argue. We never fight. We just discuss. And after that, we call it a day, right? And that's why I like challenging my views, and so does he, because that makes him that makes him realize whether or not he really stands for that idea or not. But anyways, let's keep going. Sanders, who was interviewed by Rogan last August, which he did, is a forerunner for the 2020 Democratic nomination to face Donald Trump in November. Also, I'd like to add that he's actually the frontrunner in many polls in the many states. That's something that I added. Some observers said Rogan's announcement said that he would probably vote for Bernie, was going for the Vermont senator, showing that he can win back white male voters who propelled Trump past Hillary in 2016. Rogan, who claims to lean far more left than right, which he is, has said he voted in the election for the Libertarian Gary Johnson. Rogan spoke about Sanders in 2020 in an interview with the author and columnist Barry Weiss, I think he's pronounced it, asked who he would vote for in the primary. He said, I think I'll probably vote for Bernie. He added, he's been insanely consistent his entire life. He's basically been saying the same thing. He's been for the same thing for his whole life, and that in and of itself is a very powerful structure to operate from. And sure, I'll give him that. I mean, he's been a far left individual his entire life, which it took me a while for him not to understand. I mean, it took me a while for him to understand that probably Bernie isn't the best for America. But I'm not going to argue with Joe there. He has been very consistent when it comes to his policies. But one thing that I would say that wouldn't support Bernie, that I think he didn't mention, is that Bernie doesn't want to defend himself. Like when supporters call Joe Rogan corrupt, Bernie apologizes. When Elizabeth Warren calls him out for his quote unquote sexist comments, which I doubt he said, knowing that he's a woke leftist, um, and then what happens? The Bernie doesn't do anything. When he's cheated out of the nomination in 2016, he noticed Hillary saying that he would never do it. Like I said, that's the reason. That's one of the reasons why I wouldn't support Bernie today. There's other reasons too, but that's one of the main reasons. But anyways, let's keep going. Sanders, a lifelong Democratic socialist and independent, tweeted a video of the exchange. It prompted a progressive backlash. I like how I say progressive backlash. Rogan's views on transgender issues regarding UFC athlete Fallon Fox, for example, have attracted widespread controversy. His reference to the Planet of the Apes emerged in the fallout over his remarks about Sanders. In a 2013 podcast, Rogan discussed seeing the film in question in an African American neighborhood. He got out, we're giggling, we're going to see Planet of the Apes. We walked into the Planet of the Apes, he said. We walked into Africa. Wow. Good joke. I actually had a chuckle out of it, but good joke. Probably not the nicest joke, but it's a good joke. Rogan also said Planet of the Apes didn't take place in Africa. That was a racist thing for me to say, and said his trip to see the film had been a positive experience. But the HRC was not giving him or Sanders a pass. We should always be willing to educate individuals who operate from a place of bias, David said, but we should not directly or indirectly validate or celebrate them. Wow, a place of bias, you say? I'm going to stop the article there because I don't want to make this 20-minute video. But We're talking. I like the phrase that they use here. A place of bias. Joe Rogan is very left leaning. A bias would be only inviting left leaning individuals into his show. But when he invites people like Ben Shapiro, like Gavin McInnes, Alex Jones, Tulsi Gabbard is a Democrat, but she's not as far leftist as as other individuals. But that's not a place of bias. Bias would be, for example, I don't know, a college university that only invites leftist speakers, leftist professors from other leftist universities. That is bias. That's a place of bias. Joe Rogan, he's not even close to being operating in a place of bias. The guy's very open minded. He invites a lot of controversial speakers. Controversial in the sense that they're very, very far right. Not like the Proud Boys or Alex Jones, even though Alex Jones is pretty funny to watch. But we're talking about people that you wouldn't see on a regular basis, right? But Ben Shapiro is not a controversial figure. Tulsi Gabbard is not a controversial figure. So when people say a place of bias, it's very interesting. But I would say that it's false, if anything. But it's again, the left really wants to lose this one. I really think they do. Because the smartest thing to do in any election is to gain votes, not push them away because they don't think like you do. But again, if that's the game they want to play, let them. It's going to be an easy win for Trump. But anyways, if you like this video, hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Hit the notification button as well. That way you never miss an upload. Hit the notification button. Sorry, I already said that. And share the video. That's the best thing you can do because YouTube isn't going to prop me up like Fox News or CNN or MSNBC. So you sharing the video with your friends and family on Facebook, Twitter helps out the most. It helps me overcome all those obstacles that I have to go through to reach your viewers. But let me know in the comment section below. Do you think Joe Rogan is a far right individual? Do you, and also too, and after that, I have a follow up question for you. Do you agree with me when I say that Joe Rogan is one of the most open minded individuals out there? And by open minded, I mean that he's willing to hear both sides of the aisle when it comes to political opinions. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys next time.